Hey guys, welcome to the first rhythm lesson in the Game Orchestration for Noobs course. This is coming after our melody section and our form section. So if you haven't watched those, there's a link in the description that will get you started. Without any further ado, let's dive into rhythm. First of all, what is rhythm? Rhythm simply is just the placement of music in time. So before, with melody, we were thinking about music in pitches, i.e. notes that are higher, ba, versus lower. Rhythm is how they're organized in time. Notes coming one after another, how long those notes are, how fast they are. This is rhythm. So, rhythm, notes, in time. Cool. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, which we're going to learn what rhythm is made of, how to read it on the staff, and how to read it on MIDI. Before we get into that, I want to show you how you can use rhythm even if you don't have any music knowledge yet, because it can get a little bit dense. We'll try to simplify it though today. So if you have no music background, it's very similar to create really cool rhythms, just like we created really cool melodies. Really great rhythms tend to also match human speech. Let's try that. Let's just take a phrase. 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 Ba-da-da-da-da. 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 There's already like the sense of groove in it. There's already the sense of groove in it. There's already the sense of groove in it. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Right? It's everywhere. Rhythm is the thing that you dance to. So when you hear music and you're kind of rocking back and forth, you are moving to the rhythm of the music. So that's the first thing. You can talk out a line. The second is you can clap out a rhythm, kind of make it your own. So a lot of times doing like Spoon Man or something, I'm a huge Soundgarden guy, that's the denim jacket, right? Grunge. That main riff is that so I can kind of take it and like deconstruct it and make it my own. And then finally is if you've written melodies like you've already done in the class before, you can listen to those melodies and see what the rhythm is from it by taking away the pitch. So an example of that is the melody that I had written before, which was that dun 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 dun. I take away the pitch. Bop, 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 bop. That's the rhythm. There's 3 quick ways that you can already start using rhythm. Now, let's actually learn some theory because that's probably why I showed up to this class. Let's think about what creates rhythm in music. There's 3 things I want to cover today. 1 is tempo. 2 are beat subdivisions. 3 is probably the most confusing one, but we're going to try to break it down so it's easier, and that's time. There's going to be a lot of fractions in this, by the way. So, tempo. What's tempo? Tempo speed. That's it. In modern music, it's measured in BPMs, which stands for beats per minute. If it's at 60 BPM, each beat is a second long, right? Because there's 60 seconds in a minute. If it's 120, it's going to be half a second per beat. If it's 80, it's going to be slightly faster than every second per beat. That's BPM, that's tempo. Now, there used to be, and they're still used in traditional sheet music, Italian phrases. So some common Italian names, there's more depending on how you subdivide them. But these are ones that you're gonna see. Grave, 20 to 40 BPM. So really, really slow. We have Largo, 40 to 50 BPM. Adagio, 50 to 70 BPM. Andante, 70 to 85 BPM. Moderato, 85 to 100, Allegretto 100 to 110, Allegro, which is 110 to 130, Vivace 130 to 150, Presto 150 to 170, Prestissimo 170 plus, and then Plaid. I'm kidding about the Plaid. It's a Spaceballs joke. Basically, higher the BPM, the faster the music goes. Now, what about beat? Beat, you've probably seen things and heard of like whole notes and quarter notes and things like that. We have a whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, and 16th notes are the ones you're going to run into the most. You can have 32nd, 64th, etc. I'll put a 32nd on here. At that point, you just add these things are called flags. You just add flags to the stem of the beat. They also have these things called rests. So a note is you're actually playing a pitch. A rest is you're not playing anything, but you still want to represent time for each. So a whole note looks like an upside down hat. A half note looks like a regular hat. A quarter note is kind of this like, I still have trouble drawing quarter notes, so. A quarter note kind of looks like a weird Z. That one's actually pretty good. I'm proud of myself on that one. An eighth note looks like a 7 with a ball on the end. The 16th note looks like a 7 with 2 balls on the end. And you can guess what a 30-second note, 3. So these are beats. Now, what do these mean? Well, a whole note is 4 beats, a half note is 2 beats, a quarter note is 1 beat, an eighth note is half a beat, a 16th note is a quarter of a beat, and a 30-second note is an eighth of a beat. So what that means is, let's say my tempo is about 60, right? So each snap is a beat. This is a quarter note. Ba, ba. Here's a half note. Ba, 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 ba. Here's a quarter note. Ba, 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 ba. Eighth note. Ba, 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 ba. 16th note. Ba, 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 ba. I'm not even going to try a 30-second note. You get the idea. What we can do with these notes is we can also alter them to fill in some more gaps, because well, there's got to be a space between 1 and 2, right? Or a half and 1. So what's really cool about these is there's 2 common ways we can alter the length of these notes. One is we can add a dot to the side of it. So a dot on the right side means you're just going to take the value of that note and add half of that value to it. So a quarter note was 1 beat. With a dot, it's now 1.5 beats. Half note is 2 beats, but with a dot, it's now 3 beats. That's it. And I'll show you what these sound like in a moment. The other thing we can do is we can add what are called tuplets. Let's take a half note, for instance, right? And we know that a half note is the same length as 2 quarter notes, right? This is 2 beats. These are each 1 beat. Well, we could also say, with a special notation, we can take 3 quarter notes, put a bracket on them, and put 3 above it, right? And so what this means is now these 3 quarter notes are going to be the length of a half note. So they're not quite 1 beat. They're more like 0.67, right? Because 0.67 times 3 is about 2, give or take. I'll show you what these sound like now. So here I have a little measure, okay? And I'm going to just play the metronome. Each click is a beat. Now I can lower the BPMs. So let's make this 80. Now let's make it 150. So that's BPM at work, right? The higher the number, the faster it goes. So let's bring it back to 120. Okay? And let's start with a whole note. This is a whole note. Awesome. 4 beats. These are half notes. See how they play on every other beat, or every 2 beats? Now quarter notes. Awesome. And then eighth notes. That's that on MIDI. Now we know here before that one of these, right? We can see it up the top. One of these vertical lines, you can see the gray, the brightest gray one here is 1 beat. So if this is a quarter note, if we do a dotted quarter note, we just extend this out by 1/2. And we'll do this again. And so this is what 2 dotted quarter notes would sound like, but we can't put another dotted quarter note in there because the bar is not long enough. We'll get into what a bar is in a second. Awesome. Finally, we can create triplets. So again, up top here, this is the length of a half note, and normally a quarter note is 1/2 of that. What we're going to do is we're going to make it to where a quarter note, we can fit 3 of them in there. So that's what that looks like. So let's hear this now. And I'll actually do the triplet quarter notes and then 2 regular quarter notes so you can hear the difference. There you go. That's it. One more thing. If I want to make a quarter rest in this, look, this space here is now a quarter rest. So 3 tupleted quarter notes, followed by quarter rest, followed by quarter note. Right? Easy. 3 tupleted quarter notes followed by half rest. So those are beat subdivisions. Now, let's talk about what's probably the most confusing thing for people, and that's time. And time is the length of a bar. All right, well, then we have to know what a bar is, right? Let's go over to some real sheet music so I can show you. So here in A Desperate Field Farewell, you'll notice that in this sheet music, you'll see these vertical lines here. These here are called bars. Every highlighted section is a bar. Now, you may notice there's like, oh, well, some notes have more notes in a bar and others have less. Well, each bar is the same amount of time. And why is that? Well, because each of these subdivisions is shorter. So let's get, and by the way, each bar is represented by this number here. So this 4, 4 says that unless stated otherwise, we can fit 4 quarter notes within each bar. All right, let's go back to the whiteboard because this can get kind of confusing. In that example, it's 4, 4. What this top number saying is how many of this bottom number can fit. So if you remember this 4, it's like it's a quarter, 4 quarters. So 4, 4 means that we can fit 4 of this length in a bar. So if this is a bar, no more and no less can fit within that bar. All right, but we are not restricted to quarter notes. In fact, we could do that. Why? Because a whole note is 4 beats. And if we can fit 4 quarter notes, we're basically saying, and a quarter note is 1 beat, we're saying we can fit 4 beats. Whole note. We can even do something crazy. So we can put in 2 eighth notes, which, by the way, notes with this little bar here, these flags, they get chained together many times. So an eighth note, 2 eighth notes put together, we link them together, just like we link together 4 16th notes, right? So there's 2 bars on it. So now what do I have, right? Check this out. In this top example, if we count it out, we have 1 beat, 2 beat, 3 beat, 4 beat. In this bottom example, we just have 4 beats. Here we have half a beat to 1, to 1.25, to 1.5, to 1.75, to 2, because of the 16th notes. Again, 16th notes are a quarter beat. We have a rest, that brings us to 3 total, and then we have a final quarter, which brings us to 4. We fit 4 in. And here's how each of these sounds. 1, 2. That's that top one. The second one. 1, 2, 3, 4. This third one. 1 and oh, I messed it up. 1 and rest. There you go, that's correct. Awesome. So it's time signature. So we're not just stuck to this though, right? Because we could even say for eighth notes. So now each time signature can fit 4 eighth notes in here. Well, what does that mean? That means we could fit in 2 quarter notes. We couldn't fit a whole note in there because a whole note's too big to fit in a 4/8. We could put a half note in there. We could put 4 eighth notes in there. We can do whatever we want. We can even change this top number. So we could do 3 4. So we're saying 3 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3. we could do, look at that, 2 dotted quarter notes, 1.5 to 3. That's time signature. That's it. So when in doubt, how many of the bottom type can fit in? And that creates a bar or a measure. Bars and measures are the same things. So now let's look at the sheet music real quick. Last time we learned about melody and what each of these lines and spaces means. We learned about these clefs, and we've learned about these things called key signatures, which in this example is marked by 4 flats. So we know that every B, because this line is B, every E, every D, and every A is going to be flat unless marked otherwise. And every other note is going to be natural unless marked otherwise. So you go along and, whoa, check this out. This C is going to be flat and every C thereafter. Okay, until the bar ends and we're good, cool, right? Oh, check this out. We have B flat here because the bass is different, right? So B is on the second line. Oh, but we actually want to play a natural B and then we want to go back to flat, right? So we can see how these are organized. And you'll notice that these notes in this first stretch, we have F, G, A flat, B flat, C, B flat, A flat, G, etc. So we can actually read what's going on, and we know that these are going to be faster. So at 160 BPMs, because that's what we see here, 160 beats per minute is going to be like raising something like that, right? So let's hear it. Pretty wild, right? So you can actually now see what these composers are doing because now we can recognize what pitch it is and how long each of those pitches belongs on the staff. Oh, check it out. We even have those dotted notes here. Pretty wild. You're recognizing all this. So yeah, congratulations. You now know how to read enough of sheet music to make your way around it. There's some more stuff to it, but for now, I think that'll suffice. So let's see what this looks like on MIDI. So in here, we have a time signature. So let's just enter this, and it's already 4/4, but we'll just make it 4/4 again. And if we zoom in, we can see here's our measure, and we have 1 space 2, 3, 4. 4 beats per measure. It's in 4/4. Cool. So what happens if I turn this into 4/8? You'll see that the grid, actually, let me actually show eighth notes real quick so you can see this, right? So we have 8/8 notes in a 4/4, but if I change this to 4/8, you'll see that this grid is going to change as well. Watch the grid. Boom. See how now it got split in half? If I go backwards, 4/4, we see 8/8 notes in there, 4/8, 4/8 notes in a measure. Pretty wild. We can change this top number too. So let's do 5/4. And we're seeing now 10 eighth note slots, right? That's that on a MIDI. So if I want to create an item, and I want to put some cool MIDI stuff in there, and I want to unloop this, I can actually go in here and start dropping notes because I know, all right, we're in 5/4. So each of these main spaces, here's 2, the second, 3, 4, 5 in this case. I can put in, well, I know this is a quarter note, and maybe I want to put in 2 eighth notes. And then I want to put in a half note. And then maybe I want to do like, I don't know, a triplet, but make the middle one a rest. Oop, let me put that on a proper repeat. 5/4 is a really weird time signature, by the way, but we'll learn how to write in it in a couple of classes. But that's pretty much it. That's it on MIDI. So now you know how to read it on sheet music. You know how to read it in MIDI. You can read it on the staff, and that's pretty much it. Now that you have written and hummed some melodies, I want you to go back and I want you to try, to dial in the rhythm if it still feels kind of off. But then I want you to try to write your melody as sheet music. So I'm going to do this with you real quick. I had this da 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 da. Where did I put that? Okay. Let's try this. By the way, most of your stuff is going to be written in 4/4 or 3/4, but probably 4/4. So just make it 4/4. So let's turn this into 4. Dun, 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 dun. Aha. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. So this already sounded funny. This sounds too quick. Ba, 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 ba. But that doesn't sound like it. This is wrong. How do I know? Because I say ba on a snap, and each snap is like one of these beats. Ba, 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 ba. So this should be here. And these are all evenly spaced. So these should actually probably be triplets. So I'm going to go down here, make sure that this is selected to triplet, and space these out so they're all 3. And now I can almost guarantee this is going to sound correct. Yeah, almost. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. And this also lands on a beat, on a snap. Perfect. Now let's turn this into sheet music. So I'm going to come back over to my whiteboard and sheet musicify what I wrote in MIDI as a quick little exercise. First things first, I need to have my staff. Second, this is written above middle C, so I know, if we remember the grand staff, the middle C is in between the treble and the bass clef. Well, this is written above middle C and then like goes higher. So we're gonna be sitting here. Let's see, I see there's 1, 2, 3 flats. Okay, so I know it's an E flat, so here's the key signature for E flat, so I don't have to write flats in any of the A's or the B's or the E's, which I have those. Finally, I need to put the time signature, and this is in 4/4. 4 quarter notes every measure. By the way, I'm not going to have you guys writing a bunch of sheet music. I just want you to do this once for practice so you can kind of get an idea of it. So if I look at my MIDI, I see, okay, so I have E flat, and it's one of these spaces, right? And I know that this line is E, and one of those spaces, cool. And because E flat's already denoted up here, it also counts for this lower E. Awesome, I got that first one. And then I have what looks like to be a dotted quarter B flat. So generally, if they're like above the middle, you pull the stems down. Just makes it easier to read. All right, and then I have within a quarter note space 3/8 notes. So it looks like I'm gonna be doing a tuplet. So I have A flat to G to A flat. Okay. A flat to G to A flat. Very cool. And since they're eighth notes, bar them together, and since they're tuplets, I'm going to put a little 3 on top. Forgot a rest in here. That didn't add up. Cool. That's right, because you see this little empty space here? that there is an eighth rec because it's an empty space of half of those beats. All right, so this should add up, right? I have 1, 2.5 with that dot, and another 0.5 for the rest. That's 3, and then 3 eighth notes in a space of a quarter, which would make it 4. That adds up. I'm in 4, 4. And then my next is going to be really, really tight. Is going to be pretty simple. I have an eighth note that is B flat. There's my little flag. I have a 16th rest. I have a 16th note that's E flat. Now to make this easier to read, what I can do, check this out. Because these are all, this is just like little music handwriting. You don't really need to know this, but if you ever hand this to like a composer, it'll be, or a conductor, will be easier. I can bar these together and then kind of do half a flag here before that 16th note. So it's just 8th note, 16th rest, and then 16th note. And then I have this, looks like a dotted half note. I'm just going to extend that out. That's also on E flat. Boom. All right, let's see if this adds up. So I have 0.5, 0.75 to 1 plus 3 is 4. That's good. And that is my melody written in sheet music. So we've combined the elements of rhythm and pitch to create this melody in sheet music. And the reason I want you to do that is that way when you go back to your inspiration, you can actually see what's going on. So that's it. That's your homework. Go ahead and fix up your melodies in case the rhythm isn't quite the way you wanted it to be on your MIDI. And then just take one and write it out in sheet music. So that way you know that, hey, you can write in sheet music now. Congratulations. And I will see you in the next lesson.